Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the first members only stream. How's everyone doing? Hey, Mr. Clown and Delmar, Lucas and Scott, and Rari. That's right. PF Dennis and Paul and Ken, James, Mitchell. How is everyone doing? I have been busy. Hey, Gustavo. Hi, Kaylee and Jason. Morning, Toos. Scott, your V0.1 is finished. That's awesome. That turned out to be such a cool sequence there in that stream. That was good. Good morning, Honored Twig. Hey, 007, RZ3D and Nathan, Ari and Loaf, hey, Jorg. Cause a scratch there. So this week, actually yesterday, we had a follow-up appointment for Charlie's kidneys, and we'll get the results back on Monday, but they feel like he's doing pretty good. So his teeth were a problem too. His teeth are still looking good. We had them cleaned and a few removed back last fall. So he's doing good, and he is just as much of a pain as always. Hi, Sean and Thomas. Happy camper. Other things I did this week is I packaged up the LDO Trident, got it in a box. I hope it makes it. Hope it makes it without damage. It's on its way to Indiana, on its way to Murph. So. What else? And then just general getting ready for Murph. So what I want, I'm not quite sure. I'm hoping these members streams kind of morph into something or just change every time. That's fine with me. I appreciate all the responses to the survey I did, the post asking what you guys want to see. I think we're going to cover a lot of that today. I had some inspiration and ideas based on this dusty fellow here. So, but otherwise, this is free flow. This is not, we don't have to go by any agenda. We can go by whatever you guys and gals and folks are want to do. So everyone gets the War on content, but only members get the Primo Ender 3 content. So my idea today is not to make any progress on the Ender 3 to Switchwire build, but to do some prep work. Hey, Jaeger. But to do some prep work. And some of that may be a little bit of CAD, a little bit of reviewing the conversion that I think I'm gonna go with, and hopefully having some interactive chat with you guys on what you think as well. So before we go too far, the music should be okay, but I wanted to, give me a moment. Sorry, I need to find this. There we go. So Lucas in chat, I don't know if they are here, but we were talking about icons and emojis and stuff for the channel, and they sent a couple that I liked. So if you guys see a couple of new emojis, those are thanks to Lucas. So any other suggestions are welcome as well. When was the last time I used the Ender? Quite some time ago. I actually pulled part of the extruder assembly off to fix my the neighbor kids the neighbor kid's extruder, his Ender 3, because it had broke, and I never got around to replacing the parts. So it's been a good while. Last time it was used, I had sent it over to one of my friends, and he tried to use it for a little bit, but we were having some extrusion clogging issues due to I had put a kind of a cobbled together all metal setup in here that wasn't happy with PLA and printing in his garage. So took it back, figured I was going to fix that, and that's when this plan to just convert it to a Switchwire, Ender wire, whatever you want to call it, setup kind of went. Okay, you went down. Good. Get the Charlie time. Hey, Tony. $100 Micro Center coupon for Ender 3 Pros. So this is an Ender 3 Pro. It's not an Ender 3 V2. The conversion I'm going to go with is focused on this particular model. But the idea is to go through that conversion, put a stealth burner on it with the, and I always forget the name. Why do I have a hard time remembering the name of that? And I don't know where it is right now. With the proto something? I always draw a blank on that, and I don't know why. I don't know where it is. It's around here somewhere. There it is. Proto print. I was halfway there with the proto print hot end. So we're going to put this on the setup for the conversion. How do you measure x-axis extrusion length? Asking for Sidewinder X1 to Switchwire. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the math is on that. Need a coffee emoji. There isn't one already? I don't know that I'm gonna need to swap today, but they're on the ready. They don't use Meanwhile PSUs in the pros anymore. They have their own. That's a bummer. There are other good PSU brands out there. Meanwhile is not the only game in town. The question is it still a quality PSU? Even if it's not a name you've heard of, is it still a quality PSU? What's interesting about that proto print hot end? Not familiar with that one. It has a ceramic style round heater. It uses a longer, let me see if I can, the 7mm. There we go. It uses a heat break and a unique nozzle setup here. I don't believe it needs to be hot tightened. It needs to be probably snug. And I don't know if I think they were planning on a rigid mount setup, but right now it uses its groove mount. But it's round, so if it doesn't need to be clocked in any certain direction. So we'll see how it goes. Victor, starting my LDO 2.4 tomorrow with PIFT afterburner parts. Would you run the stealth burner LED wires during the initial install and hide them, or redo the wiring later? Run them during the initial install. The only reason I run them later is to show how to run them later. Forgot to put the silicone sock back on. And in one of these drawers over here, I have some custom molded socks I'll probably put on there. So you guys, folks have seen, I built this 350 2.4 for a local business. That's being finished up. They're having me build two. I got the second one in, so my hope is to do some little quick tips during the build, take some standalone videos, and maybe actually get some standalone videos on my channel instead of only live streams. I'm gonna adjust my camera here real quick. There we go. It was quite kiltered. The nozzle has an integrated heat break, yeah, on that. I have a couple of extra nozzles as well. Yeah, here's another view of that nozzle setup. Come with a neat little Durablack nozzle. This is a 0.4. I think I have a 0.8 or a 0.6 as well. Hi, Tiger. What are we planning for today? We are just going to chat, do some overview. I am going to do a little bit of de-dusting of the Ender 3 here and talk about what I'm looking at for the Ender 3 to Switchwire build. And that's going to include some overview, reviewing the GitHub page for it, and maybe even get into a little bit of CAD. So we're gonna open up Fusion 360, and we're probably gonna spend a couple hours today. I'm still frantically trying to get ready for Murph, so I need to find some time to do some more preparations for that. Charlie again. Sean, it's a Creality branded PSU now. It still has a UL listing on it. The downside is the fan stays on all the time, where the Meanwell's fan would only turn on if hot enough. So I wonder how the components inside are, though. Are they all quality? Hey, Agent Monroe. So there's another thing. I very last second, I had to switch this from a members only stream to an unlisted stream because the chat overlay here didn't have access. The overlay script or whatever didn't have access to the stream. As soon as I changed it to unlisted, it showed up. So I'm hoping that doesn't cause a problem. If anybody knows more about this setup than I do, which is probably a lot of you, let me know if that's going to cause a problem with these, or do I need to find another overlay solution? Definitely interested in what the general process is going to be for the conversion. I've started sourcing stuff to convert my non-pro, non-V2 Ender 3 as well. Yeah, so this is not a V2, but it is a Pro, so it has the 4040. I think the major difference, at least when this was new, the major difference was the 4040 extrusion and the Meanwell power supply. I don't know if anything else was necessarily different. Now, I had printed a different spool holder for this. I don't like the spools up on top. This is just a previous mod. Oh, maybe the change to unlisted was it then? I wound up realizing it was afternoon and then having to go into the members section of the channel and go to the link from your post. That's not good. I'll have to figure that out. Hopefully it's not too big of a problem. I don't know what to do about that. We have 32 folks here. 31. I don't know what I should expect. We'll find it. We'll figure it out. These are available to members after stream. I'll switch it back to a members only after the stream is over. And then I will probably make it public ahead of the next members only stream. I don't know how I'm gonna go with that long term, but I hope I'm not excluding folks. I really hope I'm not excluding folks by changing it to unlisted. So, I wonder if it would help to put a new post out there. I don't know. I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it. It wound up working fine. I just didn't see it on the YouTube front page or in your video section the way it normally does for streams. Oh. What happens if I change it back right now? Probably shouldn't do that while I'm live. YouTube is really, as far as I've heard, is really funky for notifications. So we'll just move on and hope that everybody that wants to be here can be. Thomas, show us some more expensive tools we don't need, but we'll buy anyways. I'm sure one of the upcoming streams will be a shop tour and we can talk about tools and stuff. Right now, my shop is in no condition to do a tour, kind of go over the printers and how I organize myself would be what we do on a future stream. When you did your 3-hour thermal profiling of your frame, where did you put the frame thermistor? The frame thermistor, on the latest version I did, I put it up inside the extrusion, about halfway up one of the rear extrusions. Hey, Gerard. Charlie, that was rude. Threw something off the edge of the desk. What are you trying to do, cat? Here. You want down there? There. How many non-Voron printers are currently in the shop? 2. The Ender 3 and the Prusa with the bare frame. That's it. Everything else is Voron. I don't even have the resin printer anymore. I gave it away. Hi, Troy. So let me bring up, oh, what happened there? Let me bring up the conversion we're gonna go with. Let's start talking about this. Are you in the age-old state of everything out of frame is just stacks of boxes? Pretty much. Pretty much. I try to make the on frame look reasonable. The rest of it needs some work. So this is what appears to me to be the most common Ender. Uh-oh. You need some help there, Charlie? Here you go. He was slipping and about to fall off a box. Hey, Pointy. This conversion, Ender to Switchwire conversion, appears to me to be the most common one. So this is what I'm looking at. There is CAD available, which is I put as a requirement for whatever I do for this project. And then they're talking about it a little bit. This is based on another conversion. There's a full conversion of the popular Ender 3 and a collaborative work with Triano. The motivation came from his original conversion. So this is based on an original conversion. This is just kind of an evolution of it. And it's supposed to be pretty close to the Switchwire guidelines and stuff, so. My desk looks like an LDO bomb hit it. Yeah, every time I've got little Ziploc baggies everywhere. So we're gonna use as many parts from the Ender as possible. I will not be enclosing this. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. I will not be enclosing this. This is going to a friend. He'll be doing PLA only, just kind of learning 3D printing. Enclosing it later is a possibility, but it won't be part of the build. So it'll look somewhat like this. We'll probably figure out a way to put a display on the front. But other than that, this is what we'll end up with. And I'll probably do something else. I absolutely do not like the top mounted spool setups where you have, like here's a picture, a stub of PTFE sticking out, and then the filament able to just kind of be uncontrolled. I feel like there's some effect when the filament is tight and it jerks on that filament in like long X moves or whatever. Is there a market for used Ziploc bags? I guess it depends on who you ask. A little bit of oil in there won't hurt, right? Little machining oil or anti-corrosion oil. Yeah, a bunch of pictures here. And let's go into let's just kind of go through each section by section, what we have going on, and then we'll look at a few things. I've looked at this to enough degree that I have an idea of one thing I want to change. And that's what we're going to cover in Fusion 360 today. At least try. What size extrusions does an ender have? Trying to talk my son into converting his signed wider, which is mostly 2020. So the ender, bring this in here. It's all V-slot. So the profile of the extrusion has angles on the slots that these Delrin or whatever material they are, these plastic wheels, match in order for your motion system, right? So these are all V-slot, 2020 here, 2040 here, 2020 on the top, and then 40/40s for the bottom parts of the frame. And this is the Pro. So a big difference between the Pro and the Standard is the center rail is 40/40. On the Standard, it's another one of these 20/20 or 20/40s. These V-slot wheels are a wear item. Replacing them usually isn't too terrible and too expensive. So various parts can be recycled from the Ender 3. Most important one, so we're going to use the frame. Though a 310 millimeter extrusion is needed for the X, you can chop the original one to length. So I will figure out whether I grab a different extrusion and pre-chop it, or figure out how I'm going to do that for the build. So the X extrusion is here, and it's currently, let me see, do I have a measuring device? I actually don't. It is currently about approximately 340 millimeters long, and we need to cut 30 millimeters off of that. We're going to use the PSU, the heater bed assembly. We can use the original board. What do you guys think? Should we use the Creality board on here or put something else on it? What should I plan? I have a few options. I think I have SKR minis and 1.3s and 1.4s, and I want a smaller board though. I want it to fit easily in the under the printer. It will be quieter if we change the board, because this is not using 2208s or anything. I don't believe this is the silent board that's in here. So I think the good answer is probably a replace the board. A Pico might not be bad because I haven't actually used one of those. Might give me a chance to play with that, but I am planning on using a Pi 02W on this. What stepper? I'm not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure they're the 4988s though. On the downside, I had both an E3 Mini and 2.0 fail. Now I have the 3.0, and so far it's fine. Yeah, maybe I'll buy a Pico, an SKR Pico for it. Hey, G Funny Money, welcome. Does a conversion need more fans for electronics, etc.? I think there's a 60 millimeter fan in the back. We'll look at that in the CAD. It's in the CAD. So we're going, based on that feedback, and it's probably a good idea. We're going to replace the board. We're not going to use the original board. XYZ motors, as long as you can pull off the pulleys. That's a good question. I've heard that they might be a little underpowered. And I'm not sure what it's going to take to pull the pulleys off. Does anybody have any experience with pulling? So these are, here, let me get a view here. These pulleys are pressed on. And I have done some very kind of pulling on them, and they are on there pretty good. So I have to figure out if I want to try to use these, maybe try to use them at first and then swap them out if we need to. I'd go Pico and connect by serial via the GPIO pins. That's what I'm thinking too, Scott. And I know the Pico has enough power, so I can just power it off of the Pi, or power the Pi from the Pico as well, and not have to run the little 5-volt power supply that's in you'll see in the CAD. Mr. Clown, you've done it. It's a nightmare. Ended up cutting them off with a Dremel. Okay. That's not, I mean, one of the things I have to consider is what is it going to take to do that on stream? Should I try to buy a good puller? Try to find one on Amazon or something, a pulley puller, and see if I can get these off? I don't think a printed puller is going to work. Just from my initial trying to pull one of these off ages ago, I don't remember it being a good idea. I don't want to do any percussive removal on these. I don't want to risk damaging the magnets in the steppers. Pressing them out would be different if I could find a jig to press them out, but I don't want to do something where I'm tapping on them. Cool Breeze, Frank talking about a Harbor Freight pulley puller. That could work. I probably have something, but I probably want something on a smaller scale. He's a cheap puller off Amazon. Pull mine as a backup. I had a set of LDO for standby. Cool Breeze, if you can tell me which one you bought on Amazon, because there's a few options and some of them look better than others. If you could DM me on Discord, that would be cool. Because we can always try it on the main build stream and then shift gears, go to some other steppers. I have a whole drawer of steppers. I think part of the appeal to using the Creality ones is just because to maybe demonstrate how to pull them on stream for someone who doesn't have a drawer full of extra steppers. Do I have a garage press? I don't. I've had a press in the past, but it takes up a lot of floor space. So the steppers, we will be able to, so I guess the idea here is we could use, if we can get these pulleys off, we can use Y and X for X and Z, and then use the extruder for Y. I think this is a different, the Z stepper here is a shorter stepper than all the rest. So that's an odd stepper out. So I wouldn't be using it at all. Do you have an RC gear puller? I do not. But something similar to that is probably what we're looking at. Maybe a little beefier though. If I search for press fit pulley extractor on Thingiverse, you can see them. So let's find out. Press fit pulley extractor. Yeah, I have a hard time believing that these will reliably work, knowing how well these are pressed on. It may, like you said, it may work for some people, but you'll probably have to grind a flat on the shaft too. Yeah, that's not a problem. I can bring a Dremel in here and do that. There is no flat on it, you're right. Okay, so all the cables that don't go through the cable chains we'll be able to reuse, but I'll probably just wire it all from scratch. And they say we can use a 4010 fan for the tool cooling. And we'll think about that. This one doesn't have a ton of use on it, so it may be okay. The Y stepper looks shorter as well. Let's find out. We have about 32 millimeter stepper there. No, they're the same. The X and Y steppers appear to be the same. Now the extruder stepper is much larger. It's 40 millimeter, but oh, interesting. The Z extruder is also 32, but it's a little different style. I don't know if you can. See, the casting is different here. There's these extensions here where they don't exist on the X and Y steppers. So it is the same size, but they're a different stepper. So I'm gonna get the files from the GitHub here. Most of the printed part needed for this conversion are included in this Git. You only need to get the afterburner from the official Switchwire Git. Then there's DXF files for cutting the enclosure panels, which I think the deck panels are the ones that are, I think the big ones, maybe the bottom panel. I'll cut those on my MPCNC. And then we have some credits here. Okay. So let's look at the CAD. So I've got Fusion 360 up here. And let me know how this comes across on stream. Hopefully it comes across smooth enough. I'm sharing an entire screen and not a window. So Fusion 360 has problems when you're sharing a window. You get a lot of pausing and stuff as you're panning or tilt or rotating. But this should, and it looks, my OBS preview looks good. Should be okay. Now this is not going to be super comfortable for me. So just bear with me on the on this CAD work here. It's not set up the way I do CAD on my other computer. And also keep in mind that there are probably things that I'm going to go through, processes that you may do different. And I am not going to say that the way I'm doing any of this is the best or right way, but it's how I've learned, and maybe some habits get find their way in there. So let's get rid of, how well do they do? Get rid of the panels. Get a little better look at this. So here you see the 40/40 extrusion, MGN 12 rails on either side. And then if we look on back here, this is the rear grille with a, I'm assuming that's a 60/60 fan. Yeah, 60/20 fan, I mean. And then if we go in onto the electronics bay, everything looks okay. We're not going to use the Raspberry Pi power supply. This is a 5-volt power supply here. We're not going to use that. I'm wondering, maybe not. I was wondering if it would be better to swap these, put the controller over here and the power supply back here, just to reduce the length of our AC wires. But we should be able to insulate them well enough to be okay. This is going to be a reasonably light printer, so I think compressor feet are going to be fine, and I have piles of them. Oops. Yeah, I think it looks pretty clean. A lot of it's very similar to layout to the Switchwire. It looks like we're reusing the end stop from Creality, which is good. This is the same style that I have on here. I have not started printing the files for the parts for this yet. So this will come into the project stream after the ERCF is done, I think. I have a lot of things on tap, a lot of projects coming up. So I want to do the ERCF, I want to do this, I want to do the solid fork build. There are a lot of stuff around the ERCF. I want to do a stream tomorrow, but it'll be moving towards the ERCF stuff, but it'll probably be focusing on making my Switchwire print. So we've gone through some work, we rewired it. I put the Galileo on it. So it might be finishing a little shorter stream, but more of a finish it up and maybe end with doing a print on the Switchwire tomorrow, moving towards getting it ready to install the ERCF on it. And then when I come back from Murph, we'll finish wiring and setting up the ERCF and start getting into configuring it, which I'm not ready for yet. It looks like the X and Z setup is very similar to a spec Switchwire. So we're going to leave all that alone. But what I do want to tweak, and what I want to look at, the little bit of CAD we can work on today, or at least start hacking away at, is the way that the bed mounts to these rails. And some things are not quite right in my interface here, so zoom is reversed. So bear with me. But if we go in here and we look for the Y-axis assembly, the bed assembly, I think we're gonna turn that off, and here we go. So right here, we have opposing MGN12 linear rails and a U-shaped bracket that bolts to those. This surface here appears to be what is on the build plate when you're printing this, which means our layer lines go along this way, which means if there is any variation in the gap between here and here, it's putting stresses on this part. What I think I want to try to do is split this part along here and make this two pieces where this side can float, and we will rely on some, what am I looking for? Let's go here. Let's turn this back on, and then we're gonna turn this off, and the magnet, and the bed. So rely on some play on these bolts here in order to take up any gap there. Let's see, even if a default emoji is present, I did a quick emoji work, Voron coffee cup. Sure, you can send that over to me. So what do you guys think about that? Other than that, until I get into it and start printing things and looking at stuff in detail, everything looks pretty good. I got a little bit of mismatch in the hexes here, but that's kind of the that's an inherited problem. On a Voron 2 or Trident or whatever, they don't meet in the middle either. We rely on the display or something interrupting that pattern. Bed assembly, let's do this. So Jaeger, sounds reasonable, though the belt looks to connect to the center of the piece. Is that gonna cause any funk? I don't think so. The belt connects in here. How does that go? We have a couple of bolts. Oops. A couple of bolts going through there to connect to that. Tensioning is done on the front piece. A couple of bolts buried down in there. I think if I connect these here, this is a lot of plastic. I mean, this thing is in total 10 millimeters thick. I think if I put a bar across here, between here and here, we'll be okay. Those red pieces are belt clips. Yep, they hold the belt, and then tensioning is done. There's a little tensioning mechanism right here. This piece here moves with this bolt here. And it looks like a M5 maybe, a hex nut in here. Oh, and I apologize if I'm making anybody sick with the panning and rotating. So in CAD, this all matches up. Everything's good. What I just want to do is give a little bit of a little bit of disconnecting these two sides. So when it bolts together, it'll basically line itself up. So, will you be running clipper screen on it? No, I'll probably use a Mini 12864 display. To do a clipper screen is at least $40 to $50 for the display. So. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this component. So this bed carriage here, we are going to export this to work on it. And we're going to save it to the cloud, not to my computer. And we're going to save it into this folder we're in. Why does it need 2 rails for Y? I think they're looking, it's lower profile for this setup because this is a 40/40 extrusion. You're gonna save a little bit of Z travel there. It's going to be a little more stable having 2 rails. And their tensioning system takes advantage of, here, the big gaping hole in the middle of these 40/40 extrusions to run the belt. So you can run the belt through here and it makes for a pretty clean setup. What do you think of the LDO USB mini display? Is that... Are you talking about this guy? The one that Timmett designed? I like these. I run them on my V0s. Yeah, it's a nice little display. It is its own MCU. It has an STM32 on it, so it's its own clipper device. When I install these, usually I'll put a JST connector here instead of using the USB, because USB has to plug in from the side. So then when it's installed, you have a USB port plugging in from the side. If you make a USB cable with a JST connector on the end, then it's a little more hidden. The 2 rails also take advantage of the width of the 40/40 extrusion. Yeah. Something I said we were going to do, but I hadn't done yet, is maybe start dusting this thing off. Look at that. That is terrible. You can go, do, do, do. Do, 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 do. There we go. Now it's a Voron, right? Oh, we can do this too. I don't know why I never did this. Here we go, we're ready? Ready? I don't think we have Steven here, but old film. Get a peel in every stream. I don't think I have enough stuff to do that. Yeah, this thing has been sitting on the shelf, unfortunately just collecting dust. So let's get it a little. Get a little bit of stuff off of it. Nailed it, stream done. Made it worth it, right? Steve cleans. Oops, this thing. One thing I did on here. This gantry moves very smooth. It doesn't take much. Just get a. Z-stepper on AB might run into the vertical extrusion. Z-stepper on the AB might run into vertical extrusions. Oh, Barnyard, you're responding to someone. Could the odd extruder and Z-stepper be used for the Y and AB extruder tool head so they are all reused? So I'm going to probably run a full Stealth Burner Clockwork 2 setup on this. So I'll be using the round pancake stepper, so I won't need to reuse all of the extruders. Any of these are a little heavy and large to use on an afterburner setup. So you're gonna need an extruder solution. Unless you run a Bowden and run an M4 on this, then you could use one of these extruders for that. Okay, just because I had said I was going to clean it up and I forgot to. I've got some crap in it. There we go. Charlie's been crawling around on it, apparently, because there's little bits of litter in the extrusions. Oh, that's a good point. Thigh bone. Maybe the first one, I'll take a picture of that. I'll leave that there and take a picture of that for the thumbnail. Thanks for that suggestion. Okay, back to Fusion. So I've exported that file. So let's come back over here and we have the Y-axis bed extrusion. So I'm gonna close this. We didn't do anything. Let's open this file up. So the carriages there are actually kind of a nice thing for them to be there. Let's close this to get a little extra room. And I'm just gonna look at this and see where we're at. Why don't I just split it right along this face? Let's see what that looks like. Let's create a construction plane right there. Okay, we had that selected. We did a construction plane. That's going to give us a tool. Now we could split. We can do a construction plane here, and we end up with a splitting tool. We could also just simply split it. Split this body with the tool. We'll use that plane there and it would do the same thing, right? But before I do that, what I like to do when I grab these components is I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna capture the design history. And now that's gonna give me a timeline I can work off of if I wanna make any changes, anything. So let's go ahead and split this body. Split it with, I think that surface is where I want to split. It just gives us a nice spot. Okay. And now we have two different bodies here. We have the left side and the right side. So let's rename those. Right. And left. Could you do the split left to right at the blocks? I'm not sure what you mean. My thought, so I've got a vision in my head of what I think is going to happen with this and what I want to change to mitigate that. So what I want to avoid is any pressure between these two blocks when this is tightened down. I can avoid that by splitting this into two pieces and then they get tightened down separately, right? And then this all bolts, the Y carriage bolts to these and holds everything in that horizontal plane, right? So my thought is to split that and then join, make a brace across here just to strengthen this belt tension. If I go 90 degrees to my split, then I'm still joining those two pieces, right? I'm trying to make a minimum change here to mitigate what I see could be a problem. Now, I'm not sure that this is a problem. How many people have built these and it's been fine? But it's also an opportunity to play in Fusion 360 in front of you guys, right? Now, I've made this split right now. Another one thing you could do before you make that split is go in and clean up some of the features that might cause a little bit of a problem. So let's do that. Let's undo this split. I'm just hitting undo. So we're undoing the split. And if I go in and delete, I'm gonna have to clean up these fillets at some point anyway. So what if so this is a trick I do because selections in Fusion 360 can be interesting. I'll just grab one bit and hit delete, and that puts a delete item in my timeline. Now I can edit that and I can just go through and select all of the fillet. And we're going to recreate this later, but right now we're getting it out of our way. Oops. Just going through and selecting all of these. And that gets, might as well get rid of that too. Now if we say, okay, all of those should go away. Exactly, Lord Gitface, that's a nice tip, saving a selection and saves missing a selection. Because if you're going along and you double click somewhere or click in a bad spot, it will reset your selections. And that's exactly why I do that. Okay, let's orient ourselves to where we're at. Now we're also going to be messing with all of this. So let's, we can either edit this again and just go through and get rid of all of these, which I think I'm gonna do just to keep my timeline clean. And then these and these. The zoom being backwards is really screwing with me. Maybe I'll go through and let me go into the options after this and fix that. Is there anything on this other side I want to do as well? Yeah, probably this one and that one. Since I'm here, I'll do that one and that one. Now all of this should clean up. Bring this back into place. Not sure why we have a chamfer here. But we should get rid of those as well. Wish you could tangent select them for delete. It's always such a pain having to carefully click them all. Yeah. Let's get these MGN12 carriages out of the way, just so I can see everything. Now, since I've created this little bit here, let's go through and delete the chamfer. Okay, let's fix this zoom crap. Let's go to, where is that? Preferences. And let's go to, where is that? Is it in the general? Reverse zoom direction. Apply. That'll take care of most. So why did I need to delete all the curvy bits? It's when you're remodeling a step file, it's easier to simplify the step and then modify and then regenerate all those, because you end up with features that that just get in the way. So now if I delete those, then edit these, and we're just getting rid of things that I think are going to get in the way. Now you can start along the path of modifying your part and then try to fix things afterwards. Just from experience, I found that if I go in and simplify the model first, I have a better time. And this is just very much my workflow. Like I said, it's not necessarily the most efficient. It may not be the right way to do everything. But we're almost done here. Let's see. Okay. All of those should go away. There we go. Let me catch up. When you do the split, it can create funny geometry. Yep. What if you split it along the center by the belt path? The belt clamps would then offer a pivot point. Also, right now, you'd be creating a moment of torque that would have to be transferred through the bed. I get that. What if we split it right along here is what you're thinking, right? What if we did, here, let's go construction, mid-plane, here and here. What if we split it right there is what you're saying? What if we did do that? Is there any reason not to do that? That's not a bad idea. What does that look like? This does work with step files, Jorg. This is the same process. We're basically, this is a dumb solid. Even the, let me go ahead and say okay here. Just because this is a F3D file that I started with, there's no history on it. So it's just dumb shapes. The additional information it ends up having as an F3D file is it has all of the information. Let me see if I can explain this well. This file here, this is the original assembly. It doesn't have a history. These are just shapes and things like joints, that kind of stuff is in here, but no dimensions, nothing. If, for instance, the rear grills were hidden when this was exported as an F3D file, those would still exist and you could turn them on. If you export it as a step, then only the visible parts are in that file. That's why if you open the Trident or the 2.4 or whatever, those step files, everything is turned on. Every option is turned on. Because if it's not, then they don't actually exist in the file. Whereas the F3D file, if it's hidden, it still exists in the file when you export it. How later? John, I started it an hour ago. At the last minute, I changed it to an unlisted stream instead of a members only stream because my chat overlay wasn't working. But that shouldn't have changed. Since I did that last minute, it shouldn't have changed any notifications you had. Weird. I'll have to figure that out. I'll see what I can do about making the chat overlay work with a members only stream. That way we don't have to worry about this for next time. The total part width would still be constrained by the belt clamp bolts though, unless you put some play in the holes. Mr. Clown, the internal processes in my mind when I was considering if that was a good idea is to make those slots. So let me close this other file just to keep the, I don't know how, this is a pretty nice laptop, but I haven't done a ton of CAD on it, so I don't know what its limits are. So if we split that there, add a little bit of compliance between the parts, we don't need much. I think 0.5 millimeter is enough. And then if we make these clamp holes slots instead of just holes, would that be a bad thing? What if I hide that part? What do these look like? So those have grooves in it for the teeth of the belt. Okay, I think we'll go this way. I think I'm gonna take the suggestion, which means we didn't have to clean up nearly as much of that stuff. Let's see what it looks like back here. Do we need to clean up any of it? So we don't need to clean up any of it, so that's good. The chat overlay just needs to be a member. Yeah. I was on Polymaker Twitch to get discount coupon that's on Voron Discord Filament chat right now for a short time. Oh, they put another, is it another 50% coupon? Okay, done with my coffee, switching over to water. Well, I hope I didn't screw up my first members only stream by switching that around. We'll fix it for next time. Okay, I don't need to. I like that idea because then it kind of ties them together when we're done. 49%. Music died. That's because I didn't set it to repeat. I don't want to add any fasteners if I can avoid it. I am at 42. That's the right number. It still says 42 for me. What do we say? Nathan, what about Lord Get Fate suggested, I guess 2 left to right split and add 4 screws in the corner? Yeah, I don't really want to add any fasteners. I like this idea of splitting it in the middle. So let's, I did all that work to remove these faces. Let's just get rid of this. So we're gonna split it right there. And we need this construction plane now as our splitting tool because I don't have a face that I can just grab to split. So let's split this body with this tool. Say, okay. I don't need to see that construction plane anymore. An alternative to this, so another way to do this that might be interesting to do is if we create a sketch on the top surface here and project, because we have some chamfers here, we need to project these end lines. So project brings a reference geometry into the current sketch, right? So I'm gonna grab, because this line is in the current sketch by default, there's a chamfer here, so that line is not. So if I project that up, now it's purple, it's projected geometry. Let's see, this appears to be the center. If we do a line from the center of that all the way to the other projected line, we end up with a sketch, right? That's right down the middle of the piece. I think the middle with those bolts would be plenty strong enough, Sean. There's a lot of plastic here. I think we're okay, and it's at least something to try, right? So all I've done is projected some geometry and drew a line right down the middle of this. If we finish this and show the sketch, if we extrude and we choose this thin extrude option, we can choose just that line and extrude it to the end here. And now we've split the part. There's some options we need to change here though. So I'm gonna change this to be along the center line of that sketch. And I only want it to be, I don't want a full millimeter of gap here. I don't think we need a millimeter. I'm gonna make this like 0.5 millimeters of gap. Okay. So now we're cutting through, but if you notice, we're cutting through our tensioners here as well. So we can come over here to the objects to cut, which is right behind my camera. So let's get rid of that. Down here on objects to cut. So another thing that you didn't see was I chose the center of that line. You can choose to one side or the other or the center. So we want to cut it down the center, 0.5 millimeters, and we're not going to cut the belts, the belt tensioners. So now we say okay. Now we end up with 2 parts split down the middle with a 0.5 millimeter gap. Okay, so now we have 2 parts, 0.5 millimeter gap, and we need to, now I want to make some adjustment in these bolts here so that we're not gonna change these tensioners. These tensioners are fixed, but depending on how these parts bolt together, we will, we need some adjustment in these bolts. And what size are these? These are M3s, okay. What is the best way to do that? We can do this a couple of ways. Probably with a sketch. Let's get these tensioners, the clips out of the way. The clips and the bolts. Something I suggest when you're dealing with big assemblies, this is just, I'm noticing this. So when you're dealing with big assemblies, having all this extra geometry modeling screws can bog down the model. If you notice on all the stuff that's published, we go in and delete the threads. You just choose a face and delete. I think you choose the 3 faces to get a better delete. You choose those 3 faces and delete, and now you get a little simplified model of the screw. When you can go to, when you're inserting McMaster, where is it? McMaster car component. If you go here and go to screws and bolts, and let's say metric and M3, and we're gonna just go like an M3 by 8, and socket head, standard. If we come down here, there should be, if you go to any of these and choose the model to download, there's a no threads option on many of them. So if you import it, it'll import and it'll look just like what I just did by deleting those threads. It's kind of an interesting, nice thing that McMaster does. I'd change the clamps for printability. What do we have going on with the clamps that would be an issue with printability? I think the clamps are okay. I don't have any problems with the clamps. Harder to print. So you would change the clamps instead of this piece. I get what you're saying, but the heat sets go in the clamps. We can't really slot a heat set. And it would be difficult, I think, to put the bolt side, the head of the bolt in the clamps. Let's turn this back on. So I think I'm still going to, because I think printability is going to be okay. Because remember, these are only M3. This is M3 hardware. It's not... It's not big geometry. So why don't we just do this? We are going to create... Well, that's interesting. I didn't delete that. There's a chamfer there, but not over here. For the sake of ease of modeling, let's delete that chamfer. Let's do this in a couple of operations. I'm gonna do this in one. Let's do this. This is gonna be interesting. Let's do a... It doesn't really matter where we do this. I'm just playing. I'm gonna create a construction plane here, and I'm gonna generate a sketch on that. And then I'm gonna project these holes these holes here. Okay, and I could have done this in the same operation. I'm gonna project the outer diameter here as well, okay? Now I've got a sketch there with the holes that I wanna modify. I'm gonna turn these bodies off so I get a view of this. And I'm going to select all of this geometry, and I'm gonna hit X, or you can turn it into a construction line by clicking over here. X on the keyboard will also switch it to a construction line. So this is just reference geometry. Now I'm gonna create a slot, and we are going to go, I think, a center point slot, and click somewhere and click on the edge of that. Now we're gonna do, we want 0.5 millimeter of adjustment here. So 0.5 millimeters gives us our 0.5 millimeter slot, right? And so this is a blue line means that your sketch is unconstrained. It's not fully constrained. So let's find out, where is it not fully constrained? So the diameter. So we can do this a couple of ways. We can say the diameter is equal to that, and now it turns black. Or we could have done a coincidence, I think, with the two sketches. So now this is fully constrained. I can't move any of this. I can't accidentally drag it in the wrong direction. And now we're gonna do this again. We're gonna create another slot. And we're gonna go to that same point, but then up to here. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna say the two diameters are equal. We can do a line from, line from the center here to there. Make that a construction line, and then a little line here from the center, and this is just a reference, so it doesn't matter how long it is. Now we can mirror this geometry. Double click on it to select all of it, and then mirror it across there. And we've got our slots on both sides. So finish the sketch, and now we've got this sketch that defines what we want these holes to look like. So we can do this a couple of ways. A quick first step is to extrude these two shapes in symmetric, and we can go all the way through, and we can just change this then to distance all, and now it's going to cut. If we zoom in here, you see where it's cutting away to make those into slots. So now we have the small diameter slot, and I never actually checked. What did they model this at a good size? 3.3. If it was me, I would have made these 3.5 or 3.4, but this is okay. Now we can turn our sketch back on to see it, and we're going to extrude the outside of this, but we're gonna start, instead of starting from this sketch, we're gonna start from an object. We're gonna start from an object, and that object is going to be this surface down here. We're gonna go from that object, and then we're gonna go out the rest of the way. So that should, and if we say all, that should now generate the slot for the head. And you can see that right here. how we have the slot now. Could we have done that? If we edit, if we double click that extrude down here, could we have done that symmetric? No, I think it gets a little confused. So I'm gonna do that in 2 operations. I'm gonna just do that again. And we're gonna start from an object, which is this. And then we're going to go here, all. There we go. So now we have some adjustment to make up for this adjustment that we made in making this 2 pieces. The only other thing I would do here, I think, unless anybody has any questions or suggestions or whatever, I'm gonna put chamfer on each of these because this is build surface facing of 0.4. What do we think? Now we have a 2-piece that's going to be held together and nice and strong from those the clamps there. Then I'll print this and see what I think. I'm noticing, I'm just curious what's going on here. You notice these screws here are at different depths. Why? What do we have here? Let's right click on this and find this in the browser. That is an M3x8. What's this guy? Find in browser. That is also an M3x8. Do we have a difference? Is that just not sunk in all the way? Let's info there to there is 6 millimeters. Let's look at this one. What's going on here? I'm just noticing some differences. Here to, oops, is only 4 millimeters. Why are those different on each side? My timeline isn't to the end because I went back. If we, let's see, my timeline, if we go ahead and go here, let's see what it does. Oops, close. Close that. What is this? Oh, it's not to the end because I started with the idea of splitting the body with this construction plane. But I decided to do the thin extrude instead because in one operation, I created that gap that I wanted. So these 2 can just be deleted. They're not, it's in the model. This is 2 millimeters deeper than this side, and I don't know why. I'm concerned this distance, oops, this distance here to here is 4 millimeters. And I think the spec on those is 3 millimeters deep on the MGN12, right? I think the spec on those is 3 millimeters. So I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna fix this other side. And that should be a pretty easy fix. Let's just hide these screws, get them out of the way. Oops, I'm doing info there. What is the distance here? We have the distance between here and here is 6 millimeters. The distance on the other side is 4 millimeters. That's an 8 millimeter screw. This is two. I kind of want to change. That's enough threads. We're okay. Okay, so we're gonna extrude this. We're gonna grab these, holding down Control, and extruding those 2 millimeters to match those up. M12s are 3.5 millimeters. Okay. Maybe the two sides are not designed by the same person. It's possible. It's possible that it was the original design had it one way and something was added or changed. There are so many details like this going through on these designs and trying to make sure everything is consistent. There's so much time in, it's all in the polish of the design. So if you say the distance there is 3.5 millimeters. Here, let's make sure that all of these are in the right spot. Let's move this back. Whoa, what happened? That didn't work. Is there a joint in here? Ah, this is all a rigid group. I don't like joints. So we're gonna delete that. Now we're gonna move this back. There we go. So I'm gonna move that back, and then I'm gonna use a function called modify and align. And if you pick a face like this ring and then hold down Control and click the whatever point in the middle, and then come down here and do the same thing, hold down Control and click here, that will move that. That will align those two surfaces. See that? They're aligned. Now I can confidently measure what this distance is. And we've got, oops, I want to pick faces, not edges. We've got 2 millimeters. And if we've got 3.5 millimeters, I'd like to move this in another, at least another 0.5 millimeter. I'd like probably, I don't want them to bottom out, but I want enough thread engagement. And right now we've got basically 3 to 4 threads of engagement. The bolt head isn't protruding from the surface. So let's give this another 0.5 millimeter, and that'll be fine. So we changed this one back here. We extruded 2. Let's extrude 1.5 instead. Oh, yeah. And these over here, we're gonna extrude, oops, revert position. Extrude this, 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 and this, minus 0.5. Hey, Jose. So these aren't going into plastic, Nathan. These are bolting into the aluminum of the carriage, but I don't want them to be able to bottom out. So I'm leaving 1 millimeter of space in the carriage before they would bottom out, and that'll allow for any deformation of the plastic out here as you tighten them down, and still allow 2.5 millimeters of thread engagement, 5 threads. So I think that was the example I came up with to cover on this stream. Was that helpful? We can do more of this later. But just kind of looking at the mental process and the workflow. I don't know why are there threads here? What is this? Oh, is that a nut? That's a modeled in nut. Never mind. I was wondering what was going on. That's the modeled in nut. Speaking of bolt aligning, I found a bolt in the V2R2 CAD release that isn't aligned to its hole. That's impossible. Yeah, and what I'm gonna do is I'll print this out and we'll use it as part of this build. I will probably print out the original piece as well. That way we have, maybe I didn't think of something here. Maybe it doesn't assemble well. I'll print out the original as well, just in case. I like the F here, front. Does a color bar in the bottom panel clip bolt, or it scrolled and I switched. Does a color bar in the timeline mean anything? Yeah, that's which component you're working on, the current component. What is this? This is a different color because that was a screw that I deleted those threads on. Remember, I was showing you what those screws look like when you simplify them. And that'll reduce your file size of your exported CAD, and it'll reduce the load on your system, not having to track all those extra faces. But that is a different color because that's a different component. It's one of the bottom panel clip bolts at the front. Okay, I'll look at that after stream. I think someone's asking about how these are done. That is a great question. If we're going to reduce, it is a chamfer. So they elected to do chamfer. So let's do this. Let's change those to the cross bridge. There's a couple of ways to do this. I'm gonna do it the way that I normally do it. You can create a model that's a plug and then subtract, do a Boolean operation on it to create that. But what I'm going to do is just draw it, show you how I draw it, and create those. So the very first thing we're gonna do here is we're going to delete these chamfers. And that's gonna give us, or should give us, we've got some weirdness going on here. What is going on? This visually, something is going on here. What is this? I don't know what's going on. What is that? Huh, that's weird. I'd like to see more CAD content, yeah. The F also pays respects, it's dual purpose. Crossbridge time. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but let's see if it gets in our way. I think it's probably hopefully just a visual issue. So I'm gonna create a sketch on one of these surfaces, and then I'm gonna project, it's easy to project both of them. So I'm gonna project both of these, say okay, and project, I'm hitting P to project. I don't even know where it might be here. Oh, projector include, project. It's down in the create. So project those two and say okay. And then I'm going to get rid of, because it's easy, just get rid of this. It didn't project that. Okay. There we go. Now, I'm just gonna draw a bunch of lines. Draw a couple of vertical lines here. And then perpendicular lines here. And then we're gonna grab the tangent function and just tangent all of these to the center 4. And we can do a couple of things here. We could do the whole draw a line between these two, draw a line at the center as a reference, and then mirror these. Say okay, and now we've got our, or we could have redrawn it over there as well. Now these, I want at least this one to be a projected line so it doesn't affect the faces. Is this the free Fusion 360? No, I have a startup license. So it's full featured Fusion 360, but I don't believe that anything I'm doing is different. I don't believe any of that is different here. So now we make sure everything is good. I should be able to select these faces. Sometimes if this, for some reason, this hole is slightly off, this mirror isn't gonna be perfect, but this is perfect. So now we can finish this and bring that body back. And now we're just gonna extrude. We're gonna extrude the centerpiece first. Just select all the bodies, or all the faces, and then minus 0.4, and make sure it's a cut. And now we get the first part of our cross bridge, and then we turn that sketch back on and extrude these little pieces here, minus 0.2. And those numbers are based on your expected or suggested layer heights. And now you end up with the cross bridge setup hole. Hey Ludwig. That was, thanks for reminding me to check that, because that was good. Are there any others? Nope, that would be it on here. I'm not gonna go through the whole CAD model for this upgrade and change them all. I'm gonna print it as provided. However, if I see one that's missed or whatever, I will fix it, because I do check for these things before I print stuff. Let's go ahead and just save this model. Yeah, I don't think anything I've shown you today is any different on the free versus startup licenses. And then usually I'll sit here and just kind of zone out, rotate, look, See if anything else stands out. I think correcting these bolt depths here is good. And I want to try this split and see if it still assembles well. If it prints and assembles well, I think that's a good idea. Oh, one thing I did want to do, I did notice, since we already have these files open, the belt clips, what is the intended print orientation on these? Just gonna print it like this, I think. So we're going to chamfer this side 0.4. Okay. That way we get the correct chamfer on there. Hi, Mark Bernard. Question mark, were you able to find the stream okay? I had to make a change in the way it's listed. Instead of a members only stream, it's unlisted. And that's because my overlay, my chat overlay up here wasn't working when it was a members only stream. So we're gonna, that Y belt clip, and then the other Y belt clip is it's a copy of it, so it did the change automatically. I should be able to go all the way up here to the top and show all components again. And we'll get all our fasteners and everything back in here. You didn't get the reminder. Now, reminders, YouTube's always been really bad about. What I'm really concerned is if people can find it easily. Let's look at this. I'm looking at how, because I'm noticing differences in how bolts are shown. There are very big differences in how much material is, how these are modeled, right? Why is that? Why is there 10 millimeters here and 4 millimeters here? There is not a hotkey for chamfer. You can do custom hotkeys. I've never bothered. Why is this different? Is this the same length bolt? That does not appear to be. Huh. I wonder why. I'm probably gonna leave it. I'm not gonna bother changing that. I'm just noticing things. I'm just noticing things, wondering what's going on. Noticing I wonder what the reason is, and it might become more clear during assembly, but what's the reason that this isn't even here? Why is that offset? The screw length is not the same. This looks like a 20 millimeter, and this is probably a 12. Or this is 16 and 12 or something. Hey, Steven. Back up about 45 minutes in the stream. You missed a peel. Is it to clear the bracket on the back of the Y extrusion? It might. That's why I'm not gonna make any changes that I don't understand. I feel like this split isn't going to affect or may not affect the build, but any major geometry changes, I'm not looking to do. We'll just call it okay. Reusing bolts from the Ender 3, it could be. But we'll leave it. Just noticing things, that's all. Just noticing the differences. I think the changes here that we made to the bolts holding the carriage in are required, and I would probably report that. I didn't actually move all the bolts, so they're not in the right, the bolts themselves are not in the right spot. A lot of times that can be just a real pain in the neck to be moving stuff. And move. Did that get both of them? Nope. So they're not all copies of each other. And grab that one. Move it. Oh, and I didn't mean to do that. That one. And then we can go in and align them. Click there. There's all this kind of tedious work, and there might be easier ways to do this. I don't know it. Do we happen to have anybody from this project in the stream? There we go. Modded mod. Let's say okay. And that's all of those lined up. Looks pretty close to the other. And then we can see the stick out here, which is enough. That's enough threads. Going later today and rip the 2.4 apart and figure out why the gantry vibrates the right side panel. Not racked at all, so it has to be some minor alignment thing or the cable chain width. The right side panel. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna save this. What else do we want to cover? Any questions? Let's just chat. What do you guys, anything outside of this? How did this go? We're at 2 hours in right now. And that's, I feel like that's a pretty good starting time. We don't have a set ending time though. Here, let's see something. Let's see if I can get a good picture here. Just in case I smudge that logo on here. So where this falls in, when we actually do this conversion, is probably in several weeks. Probably in several weeks. I'd like to do this after the ERCF and probably before the solid fork. Solid fork, I've got bits for. Let me see if I can find my box of solid fork parts. Aha. I've got a box that is solid fork bits and pieces. I'm looking forward to this build. I'm doing kind of a self-source. I picked up the solid fork kit from Fabrico for the rails. I think I'm gonna need to cut some of these down because I think they're the 160 build and I'm doing a 120 build. So that's a little bit of work that needs to be done, but I haven't confirmed that. We've got the new spec big V0 steppers, NEMA 14s, and then I've got a bunch of actual maker beam extrusions. I've got 4 or so 1 meter lengths over there. So I'm gonna be cutting them all myself for this build. Steven, solid fork is a 1515 extrusion version of Trident, done by a Discord member who goes by Yuri. So it's kind of, think Micron is to V2 as solid fork is to Trident. And why 120 and not a 160 solid fork? Because of parts I already had and extrusion lengths I have available, I was going to go 120. Plus overall size of the printer, I want it to be small. I have the correct UHP power supply. I picked that up from Fabrico as well. And then from LDO, I got the Teflon coated V0.1 style steppers. So I am well along with the components to build this. I just need to do the frame cutting and stuff, getting ready for it. So I'm trying to keep projects in boxes like this. Like this is all solid fork stuff. What do I have? Yeah. Get out the tweezers. Tweezers for what? I got plenty of tweezers. Oh, I'm rebuilding one of my V0s, the red V0, the one that's on the Voron Design V0 page. I'm refreshing it and it's going with me. The plan is to take it with me to Murph. So I'll have the Trident there and I'll have a V0. What do you use to cut your frames with? I'm probably going to use my table saw with crosscut sled. I built a really nice crosscut sled based on the one from Nick Ferry. Nick Ferry is a woodworking YouTuber who had a design I liked. So it's just a matter of just doing a lot of test cuts to make sure I'm square, and then going through and setting up my end stops or stop blocks for some consistency in the frame cuts. I would definitely prefer pre-cut extrusions, but I bought, let me see, can I get to them? I bought these 1 meter long maker beam extrusions when Voron Zero first released back in late spring, early summer of 2020. And all the pre-cut Maker Beam sizes were out of stock. So I bought 1 meter long versions to make my first V0 out of. And very shortly after is when I met Jason. This is before I think I was maybe not even VOC. Jason had shown a picture on the Discord of a blue LDO V0 frame. And it wasn't a production item. I ended up DMing him and saying, hey, are there any more of those available? And he said he had 1 more. And I ended up buying it along with the first version of the stepper motors and linear rails. And that's what I ended up building this blue V0 here. Right there. That's my first V0. So now I have these 1 meter extrusions that I need to do something with. So I think a solid fork is a perfect use. The jar makes it look like I'm drinking moonshine. These are awesome drinking cups. So given a black frame, what colors should I print what would you guys suggest for the solid fork? Any suggestions? Actually, for that matter, what color should I do the ender to Switchwire in? I may give my friend color preference on this. Just let him choose what colors I do. Which will probably end up being blue. His favorite color is blue. Would a solid fork with a taco bed be called a spork? I first found out about Voron design around then too and wanted to build a V0. Those updates from the poor Maker Beam folks. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we destroyed Maker Beam. The Voron hug, that was one of the early Voron hugs, was Maker Beam. I recently cut some extrusions for consistency, cut 4 at a time. I think for my uses, a stop block is gonna be better, because if you have 4 in a line on a sled, it's much easier probably for something to shift when you're trying to clamp them together, instead of just cutting 1 against a stop block, and then you're always in the same spot in the movement. I think I'm gonna use a stop block. Neon magenta. I don't have that in the fleet. Solid fork. Ooh, that could be. I could go bright. I could go bright. I wonder. We can go really bright. Do some hot jade pink. Yeah, maybe I will go bright. I don't know if I'll go bright main or bright accent. I don't have much for yellow. Oh, I could go. Let's see if this shows up. Sparta Sparkle Yellow. You're right, I don't have anything yellow. Can you share the case for the WaveShare USB cam you used on stream? Let's see if it's still available. Let's see if that was republished. And if I can find it, I'll post a link in chat here. So we're gonna leave that page. Let's go Voron user mods, GitHub. I'm gonna go here. And now I know the user goes by Slider. So let's find Slider's stuff. Slider. And the Panzer mods are not here. Let's go to... I think we can do this. No, that's not what I want. How do we get to his original? Let's try Slider GitHub. Is this it? No. It's on the Voron mods? Where at? I want Slider. Hey, Gabriel. Panzer mode got deleted. You can find it in the GitHub archives. But I don't think, the problem is it was never published. I always had to go directly to their GitHub. And how do we get back to... Here, this'll work. Let's go there, which is Slider 666. That's what it was. And then we can go down here and let's see if they still have them published. No, they removed it. There was a little bit of a thing. See here, deleted. So can we go to history and... Does this take us to... How do we get there? I'm not very fluent in GitHub. Browse files. There we are. I fumbled through. Here, I'm gonna do this because I know the history here. That is how I got there. I am encouraging and I hope that Slider puts these back up there. So that link should get you to the files. So that should get you there. I think it works pretty well. Heart K. Let's see. Let's see if we can get to his. Oops, caps lock. Yep, there we are. I don't know if he has. Does he have it in his Voron users? Go through here. F Heart K. Next, here we go. Let's see, is there camera? I don't see it here. He had a slightly modified version that uses a little USB board so you can run a cable all the way through, but I don't see it here, unless it's not in his Voron users. Let's try, what, miscellaneous? Voron mods. Do we know where he hides it? miscellaneous Voron mods, non-print. Oh, okay. So miscellaneous Voron mods, non-printed Voron stuff, Voron camera. Yeah, so this is modified for a the wide angle version of the camera. And they also, let's see if there's a picture anywhere. And there, this is the difference. There is a specific, they put a mount here for one of those little USB breakout boards that you can get off of Amazon. So you can run a pigtail to the camera, but then a regular USB cable going from this to your controller. And the reason for that is the wide angle version of the camera only has a really short USB cable that comes with it. The other version has a much longer cable. I don't know if I have any of those little boards handy. So the wide angle version of the camera has this thing on there, but then the USB cable it comes with is only, what, 18 inches long, which is not nearly long enough to reach the deck on any of the printers, really. What else do you guys want to cover? Hey, BBs. Missed all the fun CAD stuff. We did this. Wow. We split this. We chopped it in two. Just got home from running with the family, like actually running. I would like to get back into running. I did a lot of running. That's what this shirt's from. It's from a half marathon that's hosted here locally. In March, the Shamrock Half Marathon. Before COVID hit, I was doing a ton of running. And I have not managed to get back to it. I still hope to. So I know white ABS ASA isn't advisable to use for Voron parts. How close to the white can you get and still be okay? If you want a white, natural ABS is a good, I don't know if I have any handy. Natural ABS tends to look pretty good. Aaron's not actually running. I know a lot of families that run. We try to. My son is doing pretty well, doing some regular running on his own. My wife just had foot surgery, so we got a couple more months until she can get back into it. You're managing a part of a local marathon here? So you're helping coordinate, or are you doing like a relay? It's white. I I thought I had a natural around here somewhere. Oh yeah, right here. This is natural ABS. It's gonna show up, I think, brighter on camera than it is, but so why did you split the carriage? Didn't catch that since I got here late. So let me see, let me move back here. So my concern is, so these are the MGN 12 carriages that are on either side of the Y extrusion. And when you're bolting a piece between, to straddle those, any change, anything in here is going to cause this whole thing to bend when these two surfaces are bolted to these rigid carriages. And I just wanted some compliance there without sacrificing the rest of the part. And someone suggested that we split it in the middle here, and I like that suggestion, so we're gonna run with it. I was gonna split it over here along like this surface to where it would be split right along here. And then I was gonna build a brace in here, but this is gonna work out better, I think. We're gonna try it anyway. I'm gonna have both parts printed. Use white eSun ABS for draft purposes before I commit to the color. Shows me all the issues. Yeah, white shows everything. Use Polymaker white. Oh, excuse me. On my 2.4, so far so good. It's a matter of time, and it may be fine. It's just be aware that white inherently is tougher to print and tougher to, it doesn't turn out quite as well. The only single good thing about white ABS is you can sand the hell out of it to make it look good. Then you can't see the sanding marks because they're white. Yeah. Are you doing a second part of your investigation on the influence of the magnets under the print plate of the Switchwire? At some point, yeah. And that could be a topic for the next members only stream, is covering something like that. Wave share mounts first layer is on the bed. Brant, this part that's on the screen right now is for the Ender to Switchwire conversion. And this is the conversion. Let me come up here, there we go. Here, and I'll bring up, let's open the whole thing. Will you do your own Discord at some point? If there would be an advantage to it, sure. But I'm not planning it yet. So this is the CAD for the conversion I'll be doing. It seems to be the most popular one. I'm not going to be enclosing it. That part, oops. That part that we modified is this right here. That part. So my concern is, since this bolts to either side of some these parts, any difference in print settings, whatever makes these two surfaces or parts, if it's not perfectly parallel with this, we're gonna put some sort of side load on the carriages for one thing. So it may not roll as smooth. So the idea is, hopefully, if we split this along here, we can create some compliance between the two parts. And it should just be a better, a smoother moving assembly. And then since the suggestion, we split it right down the middle, these two belt holders are gonna tie them together. And then we slotted these holes here so to allow for that adjustment. The rest of the design, nothing really jumps out is that I would want to change. We'll find out once I start assembling it if anything comes up, but the rest of it is very similar to the spec Switchwire. Cool Breeze, thank you. I heard I got a notification. I like some of the things about this design in that the modification to the frame is moving this center, the Y extrusion forward. Basically exactly and sorry for the moving around, but I think I can show it here. You move that Y extrusion forward. These are the old holes that bolt it. There are 4, there's a pattern of 4. You move it forward just this amount, and then these 2 bolts go into the rear holes, and then these 2 bolts you put into T-nuts or something. Is there enough space to add DIN rails? Yes, I think you could add DIN rails, but I'm not going to. I'm going to follow the brackets that they made. I think these brackets are all just fine. Yeah, it looks like they followed along with the design that we did on Switchwire. And I like the little printed sharp area protector here, because this is just a machined surface through here with really sharp edges on the ender. We're not going to use the 5-volt power supply because we're going to use a Pico, or Pi 02, the Pi 02W here. And then probably a Pico, I'll probably buy a Pico controller. It will be Stealth Burner and Clockwork 2, probably. That could probably be, I think that would work well. And then I'll probably do some alternate mount to the side spool holder, because I don't like the top mounted spool holder. Probably do something like what I did on my Switchwire. So yeah. Anything else? I don't want to rush out of here. So if anybody, we don't have to talk about Switchwire, we can talk about whatever. I am going to use a mini 12864 display, I think, as long as I can find a mount. The design, oops, hit the wrong button. The design has this mount way up front here when you're enclosing it. I want to move this back to around here. And I don't know if that'll just bolt in at a different spot or if I have to find a different display adapter mount. Where is Charlie? I can bring Charlie back up here. He's soaking up the sun. Charlie. Stretch. Looking forward to Murph. I am so looking forward to Murph, and I have so much left to keep working on, to get ready. The screen mount will bolt to the Y extrusion. Perfect. That's awesome. I was hoping that would be the case. What display is currently on the Ender? It is one of the larger graphical displays. It's this, I don't remember what they call it. The RepRap full graphic display or whatever. If I recall, this SKR Pico doesn't have a port for the Mini 128. I can run a, do I have one? I can run one of the little clipper display adapters then. I've thought about doing the Switchwire conversion on my CR10 Mini, but the extrusions are 2020 and 2040. Oh, that's right. I remember that. Anyone else in chat going to Murph? Just want to say I enjoyed the CAD this stream. More in the future would be welcome. Yeah, I feel like that went okay. When I have ideas of, I had no idea where this was going to go, but I had an idea what I wanted to do as far as, so I think that worked out well. Another STM32 for the screen. Yeah, that's what it would be. I can run that. The enclosure looks so front heavy, like you'd tip it every time you would touch the screen knob. I think the rest of the printer is heavy enough that it's not a big deal. Mitchell H, are you going about a 2-hour drive? That's good. I'm going to be driving all over Illinois and Indiana leading up to that. I already asked and perhaps missed it. Are there some design rules for Voron, like chamfer size, hole size? Generally, you want at least a 0.4 millimeter chamfer on build surface facing or faces. You want, I think I use 3.5 millimeters for M3 holes and then 4.5 and 5.5 for the other sizes. A heat set insert hole is 4.7 millimeters in diameter by 5 millimeters deep. But there's nothing, I don't think there's anything really published. But if you look at the CAD for the release designs, you'll see the trends. If you look for an M3 hole, you're gonna see the dimensions that we use, and it should be pretty consistent. Keep thinking about going to Murph, just not sure how I feel about the current COVID situation. Oh yeah, I agree. I'm taking a risk. Don't trust Z height. I'm considering going to IRF as well. I was gonna wait until after Murph to book my tickets for that and get it set up, hoping that flight prices don't go ridiculous before then. That would be a fly out Friday and fly back Monday kind of trip. So, yeah, we have quite a few of the Voron team that are going to be at Murph. So I'm really looking forward to that. Where is IRF? In Maryland, Baltimore area, right? Wear a mask, use alcohol to disinfect your hands, and you're good. Do everything we can. It'll be interesting. I'm sure the percentage of folks wearing masks at the event are going to be pretty low. So we'll see. We'll see where the comfort level is. It's coming up so quick. I mean, when I booked everything, it seemed so far away. And now I dropped the Trident off at UPS yesterday. I dropped it off at UPS yesterday, and it's supposed to be there by Wednesday. So, yeah, I think IRF is October 8th and 9th. Is that right? It's the weekend there. Yeah, the 8th and 9th. IRF would be an easy trip. That doesn't look like your typical water glass. It's just a mason jar. Works well. Trying to drink more water. What else? Is there anything else before we call this good? Stay tuned for a notice for tomorrow's stream. There's a slight chance I may decide that I have too much stuff to do. It depends on how much I get done this afternoon. If I can get enough done this afternoon, then I'll definitely do probably a short-ish stream tomorrow, working on the Switchwire, getting it ready for the ERCF. Troy J, looks like a good jar for an adult beverage. I usually make my gin and tonics in those. But this was just straight water. I'm still standing straight, right? The front door of my V0.1 has little bubbles inside where the bed is. Anyone have the same heat issue on the Formbot kit? I haven't seen that. The main difference between the members only stream and the normal streams is that it's been 2.5 hours and no one has asked about parts tray or what the screwdriver is yet. That's true. That's true. So I'd appreciate any feedback, even if it's offline, whatever, on how this went. Tried to make it super casual, nothing real, no big agenda, but I was pleased. I appreciate all the suggestions, and I was able to formulate kind of in my mind what we were going to do today. I like how the CAD, little bit of CAD touching on CAD we did today. But really, I'm hoping these are just kind of chats. How's the channel? Any suggestions for the channel? I'd like to hear from you. I know there's a lot of things I want to do. Intros, outros, logos, additional emojis, all that kind of stuff I want to work on, but that's all stuff that takes away from this and this. So. I really like to see how you made the crosshatch holes. Awesome. There are many ways to do that. I'm not used to doing the plug and subtract method. A lot of people like that, but I like the flexibility of whatever file, whatever hole I'm working on. It seems to be a little more flexible to me, and I trust the sketch and extrude method better. You seem to have a great way of organizing things on my shelf. Any advice? For the most part, I picked a bin that I could buy a bunch of that fit in my spot, and then just started throwing things in bins that made sense to go together. But most of that is from Target. I don't know what brand. It's probably Sterilite. Yeah, see the big mess. Let's go. Maybe get my camera slightly in the way. But it's like cable chains is in a box, and USB cables and timing belts and controllers. Just finding a bin that fits in multiples on the space you have. And I will not be doing any content creation at Murph, but I'll probably be taking some pictures and videos. So if anything's shareable, I'll share it. But I'm not holding myself to doing any kind of thing. I'm just gonna enjoy. I want to meet people. I want to see what's going on. Yeah. Your 2.4 just arrived. Gotta go. Have fun, Brent. Have fun with the build. When the time comes, you could do a mini split stream. I think I'm okay with my AC system. I'm going to be looking at doing an off-season changes. Hopefully get it a little cheaper. Like how the streams feel even without fancy intros and stuff. Feels cozier or something. I'd still like some sort of, at least outro. I think it'd be nice. I got some ideas. I have a friend that was helping with me with a logo. We need to revisit that. But enthusiasm comes through more than polish. Well, I'm glad. I mean, this is what I like to do, and might as well do it in front of a camera, right? Are you doing a stream tomorrow too? I tend to be busy on Sunday afternoon, but just in case. I am hoping, if I can get enough done in prepping for Murph, I'm hoping to do at least a couple or few hour stream working on the Switchwire. It'll be working on the Switchwire, and it may turn into, it may not have as much to do as I think, and it may turn into doing some test prints and print and chill type stream tomorrow, but we'll see. Depends on, it'll be kind of a getting caught up on a few things and getting reacquainted with things for the ERCF. Since it's been a little bit with the Trident getting, being done in between. So, talk to Ratrick and hustle a VCore. I don't tend to reach out. I'll listen if someone reaches out to me, but I don't tend to reach out for stuff. I've got enough. I've got a lot of things. I'm not at a drought of content right now. So, always wondered how the V-cord bed kinematic would work on a Trident. It's really cool to be able to do the whole bit dancing bed thing, but it's only cool. It's not really useful yet. One thing is if the stream is unlisted, we can't super chat. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. Okay. What are you prepping for Murph? I'm rebuilding my V0.1. I'm putting a toolhead, a toolhead PCB on it. I bought that from West 3D. I don't remember what it's called, by Chris or something. I'm putting that on. I'm doing a few other changes, kind of refreshing it, and then I need to fit it in my case so I can check it on the plane. So, have the outro be Charlie walking into a printer and going to sleep. If I can get that video, that's a good idea. I think with that, let's call it. I feel like this was a pretty good first members only stream. We'll do it again sometime next month. I don't think it's going to be at a certain interval, but it'll be just whenever makes sense in the course of a month to have it, and try to have it. The idea would be to have it monthly, but it's probably not going to be every 4 weeks type thing. But you can still gift memberships? That's odd, because there aren't any people on here that aren't members. So keep an eye out. If I can make enough progress today, I will schedule tomorrow's stream. I'm going to lean towards doing tomorrow's stream because I like and I need to make some progress on the Switchwire. So more than likely, we're going to do it. So with that, thanks again. Any suggestions, especially from you folks, are hugely appreciated. Reach out to me, DMs, comments on this video, any of that, and I'll definitely consider everything. And thanks for being members. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? This is the whole thing is to have this this dedicated community interaction here in this stream. So with that, once again, we'll see you hopefully tomorrow. If not, we'll see you after I get back from Murph. And I hope everyone has a good day. If you're going to Murph, safe travels. Make sure you find me. I'd like to say hi. And we'll see you then. Talk to you later. Bye.